Hey everyone, this is C Crypto Daily Buzz. Today is Saturday, March 14th, 2026, and this channel brings you the most important crypto news for investors across Southeast Asia. We've packed 6 major stories for you today, so let's jump right in. BlackRock just made crypto history by launching the very first staking-enabled Ethereum ETF on Nasdaq. The iShares staked Ethereum Trust, trading under the ticker ETHB, went live on March 12th and recorded $15.5 million in trading volume on its debut day. Unlike traditional Ethereum ETFs that only track price, this new product actually stakes a portion of its ETH holdings on the network, allowing investors to earn yield alongside price appreciation. BlackRock is offering a temporary fee discount of just 0.12% on the first $2.5 billion in assets during the first year. The fund sits alongside BlackRock's existing Bitcoin ETF, IBIT, which manages over $55 billion, and its spot Ethereum ETF, ETHE, with $6.5 billion in assets. My take on this is a watershed moment for Ethereum as an institutional asset. For the first time, investors in regular brokerage accounts and retirement plans can earn staking rewards on ETH without touching a wallet. The aggressive fee waiver tells you BlackRock is prioritizing market share. For Southeast Asian investors, institutional ETH demand is entering a completely new phase. Keep a close eye on inflow numbers. Michael Saylor's company Strategy, formerly known as MicroStrategy, just completed another massive Bitcoin purchase. Between March 2nd and March 8th, the firm acquired 17,994 Bitcoin for approximately $1.3 billion. That brings Strategy's total holdings to 738,731 BTC, making it by far the largest corporate Bitcoin holder in the world. Funding came through common stock sales and their newer Stretch preferred share offering. This marks the company's 13th consecutive weekly Bitcoin purchase in 2026. My personal read on this: 13 weeks straight of buying tells you this is not opportunistic. It is systematic accumulation on an industrial scale. Strategy is now absorbing roughly 2.5 times the Bitcoin miners produce daily. For investors across Southeast Asia, this buying spree has a real impact. Every week, they remove thousands of Bitcoin from the market, gradually tightening supply for everyone else. Cross the 800,000 BTC mark before summer? Very possible. Bitcoin hit $74,000 earlier this week, before giving back most of those gains. The initial rally was fueled by strong ETF inflows and positive economic data, including better-than-expected PCE and GDP readings. However, escalating conflict in the Middle East quickly reversed the momentum. Oil prices surged past $115 per barrel as the US-Iran situation intensified, threatening shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Bitcoin dropped sharply and is currently trading around $71,000 to $72,000. Short-term futures liquidations hit nearly $500 million. My assessment: Bitcoin holding above $70,000 despite the geopolitical shock is fascinating. The fact that BTC only pulled back about 4% suggests the market structure has fundamentally changed. Institutional holders are not panic selling. For Southeast Asian investors, watch 68,000 on the downside. If that holds, the uptrend remains intact. Be prepared for volatility. We still have 3 more important stories to cover. Let's continue. All right, let's move on to the next 3 stories. The corporate Bitcoin buying trend is not just a strategy story anymore. It has become a global movement. According to data from Bitcoin treasuries, publicly traded companies worldwide accumulated a combined 62,000 Bitcoin during the first quarter of 2026. That represents an 8% increase compared to Q4 of last year, signaling that institutional appetite for Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset is actually accelerating. At current prices around $72,000 per coin, this quarterly accumulation is worth roughly $4.5 billion. Strategy remains the dominant buyer, but the trend now includes companies across multiple sectors and geographies, with firms in Asia, Europe, and North America all adding to their holdings. My take on this? What makes this data so significant is the acceleration. 8% quarter-over-quarter growth means the corporate adoption curve is steepening, not flattening. When dozens of publicly traded firms independently allocate treasury capital to Bitcoin in the same quarter, it reflects a structural shift in corporate finance. For Southeast Asian investors, this creates a reinforcing cycle. More corporate demand tightens supply, supports higher prices, and attracts even more buyers. Watch for companies in Singapore and the Philippines joining this trend soon. Binance is facing renewed regulatory pressure from Washington. U.S. Democratic senators are now overseeing a Department of Justice investigation into whether Iran used Binance to evade American sanctions. According to the Wall Street Journal, the probe is focused on funds flowing through the platform to networks that support designated terror groups, including Yemen's Houthi militants. Separately, the U.S. Treasury sanctioned 6 individuals and 2 entities linked to North Korean IT worker fraud schemes that used cryptocurrency to generate nearly $800 million in 2024 alone. These funds were allegedly used to finance weapons of mass destruction programs. My honest assessment? This is a reminder that regulatory enforcement in crypto is intensifying. The Binance investigation is particularly serious because sanctions violations carry some of the heaviest penalties in U.S. law. The fact that senators are personally overseeing this probe suggests Washington is not satisfied with Binance's compliance improvements. The North Korea angle is equally alarming. $800 million funneled through fake IT jobs is staggering. For Southeast Asian investors using any major exchange, the practical takeaway is to ensure your platform has strong compliance infrastructure. Regulatory crackdowns can freeze assets with very little warning. A major funding story out of Southeast Asia this week. Singapore-based fintech company Metacomp announced the completion of its pre-A+ funding round backed by Alibaba, bringing total capital raised to $35 million across 2 rounds in just 3 months. Metacomp operates a unified payments and wealth platform that bridges traditional finance and blockchain-based stablecoin transactions. The company holds multiple licenses in Singapore and is building infrastructure for stablecoin-powered cross-border payments across Asia. The Alibaba backing is significant because it signals that one of Asia's largest technology conglomerates sees real commercial potential in regulated stablecoin payment rails. My personal read on this is exactly the kind of story that matters most for our audience in Southeast Asia. Cross-border payments in this region are still expensive, slow, and fragmented, and stablecoin rails are the most promising solution to all 3 problems. Metacomp raising $35 million with Alibaba backing tells you that serious capital is flowing into regulated stablecoin infrastructure, not just into speculative tokens. For investors in the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Thailand, this could eventually mean faster and cheaper remittance channels powered by stablecoins. If Metacomp succeeds in scaling its platform across ASEAN, it could become a blueprint for how traditional finance and crypto converge in emerging markets. Before we wrap up, here's a quick recap of today's 6 stories. Story 1. BlackRock launches the first staking-enabled Ethereum ETF on Nasdaq with $15 million in first-day volume. Story 2. Strategy buys another $1.3 billion worth of Bitcoin, pushing total holdings past 738,000 BTC. Story 3. Bitcoin hits 74,000, then pulls back to 71,000 as Middle East tensions spike oil prices. Story 4. Public companies worldwide accumulated 62,000 Bitcoin in Q1, an 8% jump from last quarter. Story 5. U.S. senators oversee a DOJ probe into Binance over alleged Iran sanctions evasion. Story 6. Singapore's Metacomp raises $35 million backed by Alibaba for stablecoin payment expansion. This video is for information and education only and is not financial advice. All investment decisions and risks are your own responsibility. If this video was helpful, please consider subscribing, liking, and turning on the notification bell. For real-time alerts and trading signals, join our Telegram channel, link in the description. See you in the next one.